The rooftop was slick with August heat, the kind that clung to your skin and made even polished ambition feel like sweat. String lights stretched between concrete beams. Waiters weaved through small clusters of tech investors in slim suits, serving lavender cocktails and plates too tiny for hunger. And at the center of it all, holding court in a cobalt blue blazer and her signature red lip, stood my sister. They say if you've ever been betrayed by family, hitting like brings peace, subscribing brings clarity, and commenting brings karma to those who wronged you. Try it. And tell me where you're watching from. Anyways. Marissa. My sister and I started this as a little family project during lockdown, Marissa said, gesturing with one manicured hand, the mic perfectly balanced in the other. We had no idea it would grow into something so powerful, but I saw the potential. I pushed it forward. I stood near the railing, heart pounding hard enough to drown out the polite applause that followed. She didn't see me. Not really. She never did. What she didn't say was that I built the damn thing. Not the idea. Not the branding. The thing. The code. The algorithms. The architecture that turned MindEcho from concept to reality. The AI journaling tool that analyzed voice stress and matched it with emotional prompts, that came from me. From months of sleepless nights and failed prototypes. From my old Lenovo, the one with the cracked trackpad I'd duct-taped back together. Marissa had dropped in one afternoon while I was debugging for the 5th hour straight and said, "You should call it something sleek, like MindEcho, like thoughts bouncing back." I named it MindEcho to shut her up. She filed the domain that night without asking me, and now she was standing there in front of investors and entrepreneurs and the camera crew from some startup showcase series, claiming the whole thing as a sweet little family story she'd brought to market. I clenched the stem of my glass and took a slow breath. It wasn't the first time Marissa had twisted the truth. Growing up, she was always the one who made everything shiny. The first to perform in school plays, to give speeches at family reunions. I was the quiet one. The awkward one. The one who built stuff, but never talked about it. Marissa used to say it like a joke. "You're the technical one, Eliza. But I'm the face." The way people laughed when she said it, like I should be grateful for the arrangement, always left me cold. Tonight was worse. Because tonight, it wasn't just a jab at a family dinner. Tonight, she was rewriting the origin story of something I poured my soul into. "I'm so inspired by women in tech," Marissa said into the mic. "And it's not just about code, it's about connection. That's what MindEcho does. It helps people connect with their inner selves." She turned to the side, striking a casual, camera-ready pose. A sea of nodding heads and clapping hands followed. I took another sip of the cocktail I barely tasted. "Brilliant," someone near me whispered. Then came the moment that made my stomach twist. A silver-haired man with a lapel pin and a glass of neat bourbon stepped forward. "I'm curious," he said. "Who built the core engine? The emotional mapping layer? That's a pretty advanced adaptive system." Marissa smiled, practiced and poised. "Oh, my team did. We have a great dev pipeline. I provide the vision and they execute." No mention of me. Not even a hint. I stepped back from the crowd, my pulse ringing in my ears like feedback from a mic too close to the speaker. Vision. Execute. Like I was one of her anonymous interns running errands for equity, like I hadn't spent 2 years teaching myself natural language processing frameworks and voice stress modeling, like she hadn't sat in my apartment scrolling through her phone while I explained, twice, what the feedback algorithm did. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, my old college roommate. "Watching your sister on LinkedIn Live. Is she seriously not mentioning you? WTF?" I didn't reply. I just stared across the rooftop, past the sea of influencers and founders and pitch-hungry dreamers, past the twinkle lights and branding banners, straight at Marissa. She was still talking, still glowing, still soaking in every ounce of validation. Aunt Gloria once said Marissa was born for the spotlight. I guess I always believed that meant I wasn't. That's how it always was. I created, She consumed. I built the bones. She wore the makeup. And people clapped for her like she invented oxygen. I'm just so grateful to everyone who believed in me, Marissa said. And I can't wait to show you where we're going next. Someone near the mic stage raised a toast. To Marissa, the visionary behind Mind Echo. My glass stayed at my side, because I was done drinking to lies. The event started to blur around me. Music picked up, networking conversations hummed. Somewhere, a startup founder laughed too loudly about crypto, but I stayed near the edge, my eyes locked on the woman holding court with my work in her mouth. You should talk to her, a voice beside me said. I turned. It was a developer I'd met once at a small AI meetup months ago. Ivan, soft-spoken, sharp as a whip. She mentioned vector mapping like it was a buzzword, Ivan said. But that emotional journaling thing, it's yours, isn't it? I didn't answer. Ivan nodded slowly. I thought so. I remember your GitHub thread on feedback reinforcement. Nobody else I know's touched that stuff that elegantly. My throat went tight. You should say something, Ivan said. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Not on her stage. Not on her terms. Let her take the mic. Let her build the story. Because one day soon, when the right question came again, I'd be the one answering it. And I wouldn't need applause to know I'd earned it. It started in silence. The kind that wrapped around us during lockdown. Thick and uncertain. The world outside had stopped moving, but inside my apartment, something had begun to breathe. I remember the first time I ran the prototype. It was clunky, slow, and half-broken. But it worked. My voice fed into the mic. The algorithm picked up the fatigue in my tone, matched it with stored markers, and responded with a journal prompt that somehow hit me right between the ribs. What have you lost that you never named? I stared at the screen. I didn't answer. But I knew I was onto something. Back then, the platform didn't even have a name. It was just folders stacked across my desktop. Echo 1.2, prompt test final, tension calibrator beta. I had no branding, no website, just sleepless nights, half-eaten noodles, and hundreds of handwritten notes taped to my wall. And then came Marissa. She was between jobs. Marketing firm furloughed her, said they were reevaluating team structure. She showed up at my door with a bottle of wine and a tired smile. This your robot therapist? Marissa asked, squinting at my laptop. Not exactly, I replied. I explained the basics, how it used tone analysis and natural language processing to generate emotional prompts in real time. A hybrid of AI therapy support and creative journaling. Marissa tilted her head. And people would pay for that? Maybe, I said, if I can make it intuitive enough. She paused, then grinned. You need help with the look, the brand, something sleek, something people want to screenshot and post. I hesitated. I've got time, Marissa said, and skills. At the time, it didn't seem like a bad idea. She had the confidence I didn't, the presentation flair, the kind of voice that made pitch decks sing. I figured she could help me get it out there faster. And, naively, I thought she understood that I was the engine, the heart, the architect. In those early weeks, she helped with slogans. She mocked up some logos, started calling it Our Little Project. And I let her, because she said, we're in this together, because she poured me coffee while I rewrote the parser, because I was lonely. We started having Zoom calls with her old colleagues. She'd introduce me as the genius behind the tech. I'd nod silently, trying to smile while a dozen frozen boxes on a screen stared back. I wasn't polished. I wasn't witty. I stumbled when I spoke about what mattered most to me. One night after a particularly clumsy call, Marissa closed her laptop and sighed. We need a face, Marissa said. You're too awkward in rooms. I looked at her. You mean you need to be the face? Marissa waved a hand. Eliza, it's not about ego. It's about strategy. People invest in stories. They want a founder they can invite to brunch, not someone who talks about vector encoding like it's poetry. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that code was poetry, that empathy could be designed, that I had built something no one else had thought to build, but instead I just nodded. I went back to the keyboard. I kept improving the model, because I thought the product would speak for itself. I thought if I made it better, smarter, cleaner, undeniable, then it wouldn't matter who told the story. I was wrong. A few weeks later, I found out Marissa had been setting up meetings, without me. Pitch calls, private demos, brand consultations. She told me afterward, casually, while buttering toast. "Don't stress," Marissa said. "It was just a vibe check. I didn't want you getting overwhelmed." "You're showing it without me?" I asked. "It's our project," she replied. "And I am showing it, not selling it. Relax." I started keeping my own notes, quiet backups of every file. I time-stamped code commits. I emailed myself logs and created private folders with dev history. Some part of me was afraid, not because I didn't trust her, but because I knew I shouldn't. Still, I stayed in the loop. Barely. I'd wake up to new emails with branding changes I never approved, website copy I hadn't written, color palettes I didn't like. "I streamlined it," Marissa said. "You build the back, I build the front. Classic division of labor." "But this isn't just a product," I said. "It's my work. It's our work now." That was the first time I cried after a team meeting. In the privacy of my room, I buried my face into a towel and screamed. I hated myself for letting her in, hated how easily she wrapped herself in my story and wore it like a tailored jacket. I stopped sharing as much. She noticed. "You've been distant," Marissa said one afternoon while we were both sitting on the floor of my apartment, our laptops humming side by side. "Don't let your anxiety ruin something good. We're finally getting somewhere." I stared at her screen. She was editing a pitch deck, and in the founder slide it read, "Marissa Grant, founder and visionary strategist team lead, development partners TBD." No mention of me. My throat went dry. "Why aren't I listed?" "It's just a draft," Marissa said quickly. "Relax, I'll fix it later." But she never did. Days passed. Then weeks. I got quiet. She got louder. She started doing podcast interviews, women in startups, the founder's room, tech talks. Her voice bounced through my headphones one night as I listened alone, stunned. "This all started with a family brainstorm," Marissa said in the interview. "I had this idea for a tool that could help people manage their mental wellness using AI prompts." Her idea. I paused the interview. I sat there for a long time, hands folded, the cursor blinking in silence. This was never hers, not the idea, not the code, not the concept. And no matter how many times she smiled on camera or tagged me in photos with captions like, "My brilliant sister, the tech whisperer," it didn't change the truth. This was never ours. It was mine. And she was just borrowing it, until she could find a way to call it her own. But I wasn't going to let her keep it. Not forever. Not when the thing we built was finally waking up. Not when it was growing stronger every day. Not when the world was starting to listen. Because eventually, someone would ask a real question. A deep one. The kind that couldn't be answered with branding or buzzwords. And when that happened, I'd be ready. It happened on a Tuesday. I woke up groggy, made coffee, sat at my desk, and typed in the login credentials I'd used every morning for the last 18 months. Access denied. I blinked. Maybe I mistyped it. I tried again, then again. I checked my last pass. Same result. Access denied. I refreshed the page. Same red error bar. I tried my backup email. I tried the admin override I had built into the dev version, just in case. Access denied. Something sharp bloomed in my stomach. I texted Marissa. "Eliza, hey, is something up with the dashboard? Can't get in." No reply. 10 minutes passed, then 30. I called her. It rang 5 times, then went to voicemail. I stared at my screen, at the locked door I'd built from scratch, the one now shutting me out like a stranger. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I tried one last time. "Your access has been revoked by the account owner." The words stung. Not just because of what they said, but because of what they confirmed. Marissa had changed the permissions. She'd cut me out. No warning, No conversation, just a quiet click in the back end. And I was gone. I paced my apartment like a ghost, every room suddenly smaller than before. My mind reeled with questions. Was it a mistake? A glitch? Had she panicked and done something impulsive? I texted again. Eliza, please call me. What's going on? Silence. The next morning, I tried again. Still locked out. Still no response. And then, 2 days later, I saw it. A brand new website, glossy, streamlined, professionally designed, mindecho.ai, clean fonts, soft gradients. A promotional video with Marissa's voice narrating over B-roll footage of smiling people journaling on tablets. I clicked through the About page. Marissa Grant, founder and CEO. Our mission: to revolutionize emotional wellness through artificial intelligence. My name was gone. No co-founder, no technical lead, not even a footnote, just gone. The blood drained from my face. I sat perfectly still, unable to blink. And then, my phone buzzed. A text. Marissa, you weren't taking initiative. This is a business now. I stared at the message, mouth open. I reread it 5 times, hoping it would soften, reshape, make more sense. It didn't. No apology, no explanation, just justification. I was disposable. I forwarded the message to Maya, one of my oldest friends from college and a software developer herself. Her reply came in seconds. Maya, lawyer up, immediately. Others echoed it. Cease and desist. You have receipts, right? She can't get away with this? But I didn't feel anger yet. Not fully. I felt gutted, like someone had reached into my chest and unplugged a cable I didn't know I needed to breathe. This wasn't just code. It was mine. The hours, the testing, the rewrites, the countless nights I whispered into a microphone trying to train the emotional recognition engine. Every breakthrough, every dead end, every line of logic that made MindEcho feel like something human. And now I was a ghost in my own machine. I wanted to believe she'd fix it, that she'd wake up and realize what she'd done. But instead, she got louder. The next week, I saw a LinkedIn post. So proud to finally launch MindEcho, an idea I dreamed up during the pandemic and nurtured into reality. We're just getting started. Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments. Trailblazer. Incredible work, Marissa. Tech queen. I couldn't breathe. A podcast episode dropped. How I built this with Marissa Grant. She told the host, I was always passionate about mental health and AI, so I built a team around the idea, and together we made it happen. Built a team. She didn't even say my name. I wanted to scream. I wanted to post the screenshots, the GitHub logs, the file creation dates. I wanted to shout from the rooftops that this was mine, all of it. But I didn't. Not yet. I sat with it. I let the devastation soak through me until it turned into something colder, cleaner. Resolve. If she wanted to build a stage out of my work, fine. Let her set up the spotlight. Let her invite the crowd. Because when the mic passed hands, I'd be ready to speak. One night, I pulled out the hard drive where I'd stored every version of the back-end model. I opened the old JSON files. I found the early prompt tree, the one that auto-generated emotional diagnostics based on subtle voice tremors. I ran it again. The prompt it gave me? What would you build if no one could take it from you? I smiled and got back to work. I bought a new domain. Quietly. Something clean. Personal. Not for public launch, just a placeholder. A signal to myself. I updated the prototype, scrubbed every line that might overlap with what she now used, built a new interface from scratch. I called it Rezona, just a whisper of a name, nothing flashy. But this time I wasn't designing it for validation. I was designing it for impact. I started writing white papers. I connected with former professors. I met with engineers who weren't swayed by charisma, but by clarity. I didn't tell them the whole story, just enough to let them know I was serious. Meanwhile, Marissa kept posting. Honored to speak at the Founder Women's Summit this weekend. Our app just hit 10,000 downloads. I clicked the App Store listing. There it was. MindEcho. under her name, under her branding. But even in the screenshots, I could tell, she hadn't changed the underlying logic. She didn't understand it well enough to. She was skating on momentum, on flash. The substance? Still mine. One night, Maya called. "You gonna let her keep writing it?" I hesitated. "I don't want to make this ugly." "Eliza," Maya said firmly, "she locked you out of your own creation. You built the engine, and she's out here acting like she invented electricity." I didn't argue. Because Maya was right. It wasn't about vengeance, or even justice. It was about truth, and reclaiming what mattered before it was rewritten forever. So I made a plan, not loud, not public, just surgical. I'd document everything. I'd refine Rizona into something cleaner, smarter, leaner than the original. And when the time came, when the questions started coming, when the charm wore off, when someone finally wanted answers, I'd be there. Not with bitterness, not with noise, just with the truth. Because if she wanted to run the show, she'd better learn how to handle the lights. And when they turned on, they'd see me, clearly. It started with a question Marissa couldn't answer. She was on stage at a boutique investor Q&A, one of those wine and velvet curtain events where everyone wore linen and nodded too much, a startup showcase they called it. Each founder had 5 minutes and 3 slides. Then the floor opened. Marissa stood confidently beneath soft lights, her hands moving like a dancer's as she repeated the same pitch she'd given a dozen times. Mind Echo isn't just AI. It's emotional intelligence at scale. A tool for real connection in a world of noise. Applause. A man in the back raised his hand. He wasn't dressed like the others. No blazer, no pocket square, just a gray t-shirt and a curious smile. "Could you speak more on the model's decision-making process?" he asked. "Specifically, how the emotional inference layer prioritizes tone inflection over word content." Marissa blinked. She tried to hold her smile. "We're using a neural network pipeline," she said. "It's, something with vector mapping and semantic tagging." The man tilted his head. "But the tone weighting, how does that factor into the journaling prompts?" "We've got a great team on that," Marissa replied quickly. "They're very technical." She moved on. Another question, another polished answer. But the man didn't clap, he just watched her. 2 days later, I got a LinkedIn request. Leo Grant, angel investor, early-stage advisor, pattern recognition addict. His message was short. "Are you the engineer behind Mind Echo?" I stared at the screen. My first instinct was to close the app, but instead I opened his profile. Dozens of investments, 2 unicorn exits. He wasn't just curious, he was surgical. "Strategic," I replied. "Yes. Wanna talk?" We met at a quiet cafe near the MIT campus, where I'd once sat for hours, tweaking a prototype that had become Mind Echo's foundation. It felt full circle. Like the start of something. Or maybe the unraveling of something false. Leo slid into the seat across from me. No small talk. "Tell me the truth," Leo said. "Did you build the core?" I opened my laptop. "I built the engine," I said. "Here's the first commit, August 2020, single author." I pulled up the GitHub repo, then the backend logs, the prototype voice modulation test, the journal prompt tree, the exact logic used to generate personalized writing cues based on tone and stress markers. He leaned forward, squinting at the screen. "No marketing fluff," I said. "Just architecture." I showed him the emotion parser, the raw Python functions that compared spoken cadence against journal entry patterns, the weight assignment logic, the part where the system learned from pauses, not just words. Leo whistled. "That's clean." I was still working out the UI when Marissa offered to help with branding, I said. She was good at networking, pitch decks, events. He nodded slowly. "But the engine?" I said. "This is mine." Leo leaned back. She told the panel it was a team build, that she oversaw development. "She didn't write a line of code," I said. He looked at me, not just at me, through me. "You built the whole damn thing. Leo said. I nodded. She marketed it. I built it. But without the engine, there's nothing to sell. He tapped his fingers against the ceramic cup, then smiled faintly. You want the truth to catch up to the stage show? No, I said. I want the truth to outlast it. Leo grinned. Good answer. He asked more questions, not just technical ones, ethical ones, practical ones. Do you want to run a company? He asked. Or do you just want the story corrected? I hesitated, because for a long time, all I wanted was acknowledgement. A footnote, a moment where someone said, she made this. But now I wanted more. I want the chance to build it right, I said. This time, without someone else rewriting it in real time. Leo sipped his espresso. That's what I hoped you'd say. He told me he'd paused his pending investment in MindEcho after the showcase, that something felt off, that her answers were memorized, not understood. That emotional inference model you built? Leo said. It's better than most VC-backed platforms I've seen. Thank you, I said quietly. I don't say that lightly, Leo added. So here's the deal. I want to back you, not her, not the shell, the engine. I felt my stomach turn, not with fear, with something older, hope, maybe, or something more dangerous, belief. You're going to build something new, Leo said. We'll walk through the legalities, we'll handle the code audits, but I need you to be ready. I've been ready, I said. I just needed someone to stop pretending I wasn't there. He reached out, slid a napkin across the table, and wrote his number. Call me tomorrow, Leo said. And Eliza? Yes? This time, you're not the secret weapon. You're the reason they show up. The elevator ride was quiet. Just Leo and me, standing shoulder to shoulder. I was wearing a navy blazer that still had the dry cleaner tag tucked in the pocket. My laptop was in my bag, a flash drive clipped to the zipper. The numbers on the panel lit up slowly. 7th floor, then 8th, then 9th. Leo glanced sideways. You good? I nodded. As good as someone can be before walking into a room where her own ideas being performed without her. Leo smiled. You're not crashing the meeting. You're correcting the record. When the doors opened, I expected the usual polished glass conference room, but this was more understated. Warm wood, soft chairs, a carafe of water with lemon slices on the table. 3 partners sat at one end, papers in hand. Marissa stood near the whiteboard, mid-sentence. And with the current growth trajectory, we'll hit 150,000 monthly users by Q4, Marissa said. That's conservative, by the way. She wore a crisp ivory blouse and the same confident smile I'd seen in every one of her online interviews. Leo stepped in first. Morning, everyone, Leo said. Before we begin, I brought someone I'd like to introduce. Marissa turned, expecting another investor, another connection, another person to impress. Instead, she saw me. The smile cracked for a split second. Her eyes narrowed, mouth parting just slightly. What is she doing here? Marissa asked. Leo answered before I could. This is Eliza, Leo said. You may know her as the original engineer on the MindEcho platform. He turned toward the partners. Actually, correction, Leo said. She's the founder. The room went still. Marissa laughed nervously. Wait, Leo, I don't think this is the time. Leo raised a hand. We'll let Eliza walk us through a version of the platform, one she's been developing independently, based on the original code she wrote. After that, we can talk next steps. Marissa stepped back from the whiteboard, face tight. I walked to the table, opened my laptop, and connected to the monitor. I've been working on a fork of the original system, I said. Cleaner interface, improved latency on tone detection, and a stronger backend to handle scaling without compromising user privacy. I clicked through slides, data flow architecture, modular flexibility, actual use cases from pilot testers I'd recruited myself. Every number, every chart, mine. Leo nodded as I continued. No inflated buzzwords, I said. Just performance. secure, transparent, and adaptable. The partners leaned in, flipping pages. One of them, a woman named Priya, pointed to a diagram. Is this the same inference engine that powers MindEcho right now? No, I said. It's the original, refined. What you've seen publicly has pieces of this, but it's fragmented. And you own this version? Priya asked. I met her eyes. Fully, it's my code, my IP, my cloud infrastructure. Marissa stood with her arms folded. This feels like an ambush, Marissa said tightly. I've been presenting this product for over a year. My name is on every proposal. And I've been in the background for longer than that, I replied. Building something that works, not just looks good on a pitch deck. Marissa stepped forward. You're not even good with people, Marissa said. You hate presenting, you don't know how to sell. I kept my voice calm. I don't need to sell lies, I said. The tech speaks for itself. Leo turned to the investors. Eliza has documentation, Leo said. Every repository, every dataset, every timestamp. If you want authenticity, it's in her files. If you want sustainability, it's in her structure. Priya looked at Marissa. Do you have equivalent proof of authorship? Marissa opened her mouth, then closed it. Eliza was always part of the team, Marissa said. We were collaborators. I smiled faintly. You locked me out of the dashboard, Marissa, I said. You changed the branding, erased my name, and when investors asked who built it, you said, your team. Marissa's voice got sharper. Because you were disappearing. You didn't show up to half the meetings. Because you stopped inviting me, I said. Silence. One of the partners adjusted his glasses. We're here for one reason, to invest in the version of this product that actually works. That's scalable. That's real. He looked at Leo. Does Eliza have what she needs to run it? She does, Leo said. They turned to me. Eliza, Priya said. Would you be open to relaunching, under a new name, new structure, fully owned by you? I looked at Marissa. Her eyes were wide now, mouth barely open, and I thought about the years I'd spent waiting for permission, waiting for a spotlight to find me instead of building one myself. Yes, I said. I'd be ready by next quarter. Priya smiled. Let's talk next steps. As they packed their folders, I unplugged my laptop. Marissa stood by the wall, still frozen. As I passed her, she whispered, You really blindsided me. I paused, looked her in the eye. No, I said. You blinded yourself. I walked out of the room without looking back. Outside, Leo handed me a water bottle and grinned. You handled that like a CEO? He said. I am one, I replied. And for the first time, I didn't need anyone else to say it for me. Marissa didn't speak to me for 3 days. Not a text, not a call, nothing. But that wasn't the part that surprised me. What surprised me was how calm I felt. After all that buildup, the rage, the betrayal, the weight of being erased, there was just clarity. It wasn't my job to fix what she broke. My job now was to lead. I spent the next few days working closely with Leo and Priya's team. They reviewed every artifact I sent, version control logs, Slack archives from the early prototype phase, design boards I'd built in Figma before anyone else even knew the project existed. There were no holes. Every timestamp, every repo, every line of code pointed back to me. When Priya called to say they were ready to formalize the deal, I almost didn't believe it. Eliza, Priya said, we want you to relaunch the platform under your leadership. Full funding, full equity, full control. I didn't answer right away. Priya added, We're not interested in a marketing act. We're investing in the mind behind it. I said quietly, Then let's build it right this time. The meeting to sign the term sheet was set for Friday. The same Friday that Marissa decided to finally break the silence. It started with an email. Subject line, Can we talk? Then a longer message a few hours later, full of bullet points and half apologies. I get that you're upset. But you weren't being clear with your intentions either. You acted like you wanted to stay in the background. I was just trying to keep the momentum going. You know how hard it is to impress investors. This was always a partnership, Eliza. Don't throw away what we built together just to prove a point. I stared at the screen for a long time. The idea that I was throwing something away, that I was sabotaging a we that never existed, it almost made me laugh. Instead, I replied with a single line, "All receipts are with the board. They've made their decision." Marissa didn't take that well. The next day, Leo forwarded me a message she sent him. "You're backing someone who's never even pitched before. I built the narrative. I made this real." He didn't respond to her either. By Thursday, Marissa had resorted to damage control. She started posting more aggressively on LinkedIn, a thread about learning from mistakes in early-stage startups, a humble brag photo at a networking event, a quote about collaboration over ego. But the narrative was slipping away. Fast. Friday came, and with it, the real shift. The signing took place in a quiet boardroom overlooking the harbor. Just me, Leo, Priya, and 2 other partners. No media, no ceremony. I wore a simple blazer, no makeup, hair in a bun. I read every line of the term sheet twice. It was solid, fair. My name, alone, on the founder line. "Eliza Sinclair," Priya said, handing me the pen. "CEO of EchoPath." That was the new name, clean, modern, and mine. As I signed, a strange thought flickered in my mind. It wasn't just that Marissa couldn't take this back. It was that she'd finally been forced to see me, not as a sidekick, not as a tool, but as a threat, a reality, a creator. Later that afternoon, I received one final attempt at reconciliation. This time it wasn't an email. It was a voicemail. 2 minutes long. Her voice was shaky but composed. "I saw the announcement. I didn't know how far it had gone. I thought we had time to figure this out. It was always yours, I know that, but you made it impossible to help. You were so withdrawn, so private. I didn't mean to hurt you, I just panicked. I thought if I could just get us over the line, get the deal, we'd fix it after. I know you probably hate me now, but I'm proud of you. Really. I hope you do amazing things with it, even if I'm not part of it." She ended the message with a soft, "I miss you." And I believed that she did. But missing me now wouldn't undo what she did then. That weekend, Priya's team released a press statement. EchoPath, the mental wellness platform reborn under its true creator. It didn't mention Marissa, not once. Just a quote from me. "You can take a voice out of a pitch, but you can't erase the person who wrote the first line of code." The article went viral on tech blogs. A few developers I'd worked with in the early days reached out, stunned and supportive. "Finally," one of them wrote. "I was wondering when you'd get your due." A journalist asked if I'd be open to a profile piece. "We want to tell your story," she said, a woman founder who quietly built something brilliant, then had to fight for her own name on it. I agreed to the interview, but I told her I wouldn't speak badly about Marissa. "This isn't a takedown," I said. "It's a correction." That week, I walked into the new EchoPath office, a co-working space I'd picked near the park, and sat down with my new team, developers, designers, a product manager who believed in empathy-first UX. We started sketching out the roadmap. No drama, no noise, just work. The kind I'd always loved. And as I looked around the room, it hit me. This was what I wanted all along. Not credit, not revenge, just the chance to build something real. And now, I wasn't waiting on permission. I was the permission. The first message came the night after the press release, a text, short, hesitant. "Marissa, hey, can we talk?" I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over a keyboard that didn't need me. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because I had nothing to say. Not anymore. The second message came a few hours later. "Marissa." I panicked. I didn't know how else to keep things moving. I didn't mean to cut you out. It just... It spiraled. I read it once, then again, noted the lack of actual apology, noticed how she made herself the victim of her own actions. I put my phone face down. 2 days passed. Then a third message, longer this time. Paragraphs, bullet points, a carefully curated blend of justification and guilt. You were always so independent, Eliza. I didn't think you even wanted to be front and center. I figured I'd just get us through the launch phase and then you'd step in. Maybe I messed up. Okay, I messed up, but we can fix this. We were always stronger together. Stronger together. That phrase rang louder than she meant it to, because the truth was, we were never stronger together. She had always drawn strength from being in front, from leading the room, from applause. But I'd never needed that. I built strength in quiet places, in IDEs, in Git trees, in late-night design sprints no one ever saw. When I didn't reply, she started calling. Once at midnight, then again at 6 a.m. Each time, the screen lit up with her name, Marissa, sister. I thought about answering. I really did. There was a time when she was the only person I trusted with everything. When we were kids, we'd play CEO and COO in the backyard. I'd set up cardboard laptops, she'd write fake invoices on napkins. Back then, the only thing we wanted more than building a company was building it together. But people change, and some bridges aren't burned with fire. They're weathered, rotted, eroded by years of ego, silence, and small betrayals that pile up like sediment until the structure's too weak to walk across. By the fifth voicemail, her tone had shifted. Less confident, more pleading. I know you think I'm awful, I know I crossed a line. But I didn't do it to hurt you, okay? I did it because I thought you didn't want the spotlight. I thought you were better off letting me handle it. I was wrong, I see that now. Just, please, let's rebuild this. Sisters first. Sisters first. It should have been a balm. But instead, it felt like a marketing slogan. Something she'd say on stage in a TED Talk about female co-founder synergy. I didn't respond. And that silence, it seems, finally forced her into something slower, something analog. A letter arrived the following Tuesday. Cream envelope. Slanted cursive handwriting I recognized instantly. I held it in my hands for a long time before opening it. Longer than I expected. Inside, 2 sheets of linen paper. Handwritten. No emojis, no filters. Dear Eliza, I've replayed everything 1,000 times. The dashboard lockout, the credit stealing. The way I erased your name like it didn't matter. It does matter. You mattered. I see that now. Not just because investors do, but because I finally stopped pretending I was the engine when I was just riding shotgun. I wish I could undo it. I know I can't. But maybe we can start over. Sisters first. I miss you more than I can say. Love, Marissa. I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. Then I slid it into a drawer. I wasn't angry, not bitter, not even sad. I was just done. Later that night, I met up with Priya and Leo for dinner. We were prepping for a keynote the following month, a Women in Tech panel hosted by Stanford. They asked if I wanted to share the Marissa story. I shook my head. I don't want to be the girl who got her idea stolen, I said. I want to be the woman who built something bigger anyway. Leo raised his glass. Then that's exactly what you'll be. I toasted with water. We laughed about something else. A bug fix that went viral. A podcast that mentioned EchoPath in their top 5 rising startups. I didn't mention the letter. That weekend, I finally picked up my phone, scrolled to Marissa's message, and typed out a response. Then I paused, read it again, and deleted it. Instead, I sat at my laptop, opened the EchoPath roadmap, and drafted a new feature proposal, something I'd been tinkering with for months. A neural tone processor to adapt journaling prompts based on vocal stress levels. That was my answer. Not silence, not spite, just progress. That's the thing about betrayal. It teaches you where not to build again, what fault lines to avoid, what cracks to reinforce. By the time Monday rolled around, I had 12 new emails in my inbox from angel investors. A podcast wanted to feature me. A local college invited me to speak to their CS students. I smiled at each notification, not because I needed the attention, but because I finally understood the difference between being visible and being valued. And now, I had both. On my own terms. Ho. The office didn't look like much from the outside. Brick walls, a single glass door with frosted letters that read, Echo Path Technologies. But inside, it was mine. A soft hum of brainstorming filled the open workspace, designers whiteboarding on one end, engineers doing code reviews on the other. Real voices, real talent. All of them here because of something I started in a cramped bedroom during lockdown. "Morning, Eliza," said Nicole, our new operations lead, as she passed my desk holding 2 coffees. "Thanks," I said, taking one. "You didn't have to." "I like seeing you caffeinated before 10 a.m., she replied. It was strange sometimes, being looked up to, being introduced as our CEO. But the difference now was, I didn't shrink away from the title. I'd earned it. Every version control commit, every late-night fix, every silence I once held in rooms that refused to see me, and now they saw me everywhere. When Tech North published the feature story, I didn't even know it was coming. The journalist reached out months before, quietly compiling the pieces, GitHub logs, founder documents, archived website versions. The headline landed like a quiet storm. The woman who built it alone, until they tried to steal it. I didn't mention Marissa in the interview. Not once. Not because I was protecting her, but because she didn't belong in my story anymore. Not in the present tense. My team celebrated the article with cupcakes and confetti, and someone jokingly changed my Slack title to Code Empress. I let it ride for a day. I spent the rest of that week preparing for something else, my first major talk. Women in Tech, Founders Conference, Seattle. I'd been invited to keynote. Backstage, I paced slowly in a black blazer and jeans. No flash, just me. The real me. A volunteer poked her head in. 5 minutes, Ms. Tran. Thank you, I said. My name lit up on the screen behind the stage, white text over navy blue. Eliza Tran, CEO, Echo Path from prototype to powerhouse, owning your voice in tech. When I stepped out into the light, the applause was kind, not roaring, but warm, genuine. I took the mic, took a breath. I'm not here to tell you how to build a startup, I said. You already know how. You've been building in rooms where people ignored you, in meetings where they stole your words and recycled them louder, in teams where your title was lowercase, if it existed at all. Heads nodded. I continued. I'm here to talk about what happens when someone tries to erase your name from your own work, when you're asked to stay in the back while someone else takes credit. I paused. That happened to me? I didn't say who, I didn't need to. But here's what I've learned, I said. If they try to erase your name from the headline, don't fight for the mention, take back the byline. That line got the silence I wanted, the kind that meant they were listening. Afterward, women came up to me, developers, product managers, first-time founders. One said, I showed your story to my board. It gave me the guts to take CEO instead of COO. Another whispered, I had a co-founder who did the same thing. I thought I was the only one. I realized something in that moment. My story wasn't rare, but the ending? That part was. Back in the office that Friday, I sat with my leadership team to review a new mentorship program. We were opening an incubator for early-stage female-led AI startups. 10 applicants had already submitted ideas. Nicole handed me the final application summary. This last one, she said, comes from a founder who's bootstrapping a similar emotional wellness tool. Not AI-based yet, but she's asking for dev mentorship. I looked at the name on the application. It wasn't Marissa, but I thought about her anyway. I thought about that last message, the one she sent weeks ago. Sisters first, she had written, and still, I hadn't replied. Not because I hated her, because I'd finally learned how to let go of needing her approval or her apology. Growth doesn't always come wrapped in rage or revenge. Sometimes it's just absence. Absence of need, absence of noise, absence of trying to explain your worth to someone who never saw it. I stood up and walked to the window. The skyline shimmered in late afternoon gold. People rushed below, headphones in, lives spinning forward. I tapped my watch and recorded a quick memo. Echo Path. Internal tagline update. New brand story pitch. We are the architects, the minds, the hands behind the curtain. We don't chase the spotlight. We build it. That night I got home and saw a package on my doorstep. No return address. Inside was a leather-bound journal. On the first page, in Marissa's handwriting. To the one who started it all, I know I lost the right to call you partner, but maybe someday I can just call you friend. I read it, closed it, placed it on a shelf with my first prototype notebook, and then I got back to work. Not because I was escaping anything, but because I was building something, my legacy, my company, my name. She wanted to be the face, but I was always the mind. And now, they finally know the difference. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to subscribe for good luck.